Shalom, shalom. My name is Davon Mays, and today we are going to be talking about Kanye, Kyrie, Martin Luther King, and what the Torah says. I'm sure everybody's aware of the recent events. I kind of fell back a little bit just to see what anybody was going to put out, just to see what kind of content was going to come from this, and if it was going to be, positive, negative, Torah based, emotionally based. So I decided to put something together. I'm gonna break it up into a couple of different parts. I don't want it to be too long, just so it can be digestible. So we'll get right into it. So Clouds of Torah presents Kanye, Kyrie, Martin Luther King, and what the Torah says. So some of the things that's on the table is what is a Jew? Are the blacks the Jews? Are the blacks the only Jews? Are there any fake Jews? You know, um, it seems to be a lot of disinformation out there, or misinformation. So let's see what Martin Luther King said about this, because everybody kind of holds him up as a high authority figure as far as trying to bring peace. So he says in his famous speech, "I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today." Very, very famous speech. So if we apply this logic, then your skin color would not even matter when it comes to being a righteous person, let alone a Jew, but just a righteous person in general. Every religion, every denomination, every race has their good and bad actors. No denying that. So, you know, if you're going to put everybody in one category based off of what they call themselves, it's just not fair when you apply that, because if somebody does that, then somebody can turn around and do it to them. You can't say, well, the Jews did this. Well, somebody that was a Jew might have done that, because you can't say, the blacks did this, because somebody black might have done that, but you can't put everybody in the same pot. You know what I mean? It's just simply not fair. So here's the serious charges. So what is a Jew? Fake Jews, white Jews, black Hebrew Israelites, Hebrews to Negroes. These are all the things that, between Kanye and Kyrie, this is the topics that have come up. Jews are responsible for rap exploiting blacks, Jews control Hollywood and the music industry, etc. Is this true? Well, we're gonna find that out. And Jews were involved with slavery. So to say these things implies that only Jews were doing these things. And it kind of implies that this is what a Jew does, let alone anybody. We know for sure Christians were involved with slavery. Does Christianity teach that? If you read the New Testament, you decide. Does the Torah teach slavery, the kidnapping of people? Does it teach that? So if somebody Jewish does that, are they representing the Torah? Well, we're going to get into all these things. So assignments and choices. So to be from any type of faith background, there's assignments. The Torah tells the Jews to be the light, or Israel to be a light to the nations, and they're given assignments, but they also have choices. They're not robots. Jeremiah 1:4-8. Then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations." Then said I, "Ah, Lord God, behold, I cannot speak, for I am a youth." But the Lord said to me, "Do not say I am a youth, for you shall go to all to whom I send you, and whatever I command you, you shall speak. Do not be afraid of their faces, for I am with you to deliver you," says the Lord. Now remember, Moses didn't want to go to Egypt either. He had an argument. I'm stuttering. Basically, I'm not the man for the job, and he still had to go. Now he had a choice, but the Most High convinced him. Um, just like Jeremiah had a choice. He's like, "Oh, I'm a youth." The Most High said, "No, Don't say I'm a youth. You're going to do what I told you to do. Jonah 1:1. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it, for their wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. So we see, again, somebody didn't want to listen to what God told him to do. They had a choice. Jonah tried to run. He eventually was convinced otherwise as well. But they still, their first impulse was, I don't want to do this. Jeremiah 1:17. Now get ready, stand up and tell them everything that I command you. Do not be intimidated by them. I will cause you to cower before them. So God basically told Jeremiah, if you're going to be scared of them, I'm going to make you scared of me in front of them. He convinced him to do his job. It's not an easy job, but Jeremiah being a prophet, this is kind of what, comes in that territory. So Deuteronomy 30:19, I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life that both you and your descendants may live. So you still have a choice. You can choose to listen to God, or you can choose not to. And you can choose to be what you want to be in this world. If you want to be a Jew, you can convert. If you are born a Jew, you can't unconvert. So, well, I thought you said you had a choice. Well, Israel has a different calling than the rest of the nations. Israel is called to be the priests in a kingdom of priests, which comes with heavy responsibility. Just like if you're born the son of a king, you really don't have a choice of being the king if you're in line for that. Some jobs, come with heavy responsibility. Now, again, you don't have to do it. You can rebel, but there's consequences. So you still have a choice. But as we've seen with Jeremiah and with Jonah, there was consequences in rebelling. So you can not do it, but it comes with a consequence. So I'm bringing this all up because people think you can just call yourself a Jew. You can just claim that just because, famously, among the Black Hebrew Israelites, most notably, they're not the only ones who do this, but they read Deuteronomy 28 and they say, well, these curses sound like us. And they do. And they do apply. There's many people in America that are Hebrews, no doubt about it. The question is everybody claiming to be a Hebrew or Hebrew? Just because you look like something doesn't mean you are something. Because, you know, I don't know the exact number. Let's say there's 50 million blacks in America. Are they all descendants of Israel? No. Many people from so many places around the world. So to just put that label on anybody over here that's black or, brown or it doesn't apply like that, especially if you're not living according to the rules. So this is what we're talking about. You should be circumcised. Genesis 17:9-14. And God said to Abraham, as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised, and you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. A sign. There's something that people can distinguish. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with money from any foreigner who is not your descendant. He who is born in your house and he who is bought with money must be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. So we see a sign to who was actually a descendant of Abraham. Without this sign, you will be cut off from your people. So if you subscribe to Christianity and you're not under the law anymore, according to, different readings of the writings of Paul, and you want to accept what Paul said, then you have cut yourself off from the covenant given to Abraham. This is what God told Abraham. So if you want to claim to be a descendant of Israel, which is a descendant of Abraham, you must be circumcised or you have broken that covenant. Very simple. My Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you. Again, we have another sign. Exodus 31:13. Speak also to the children of Israel, saying, surely my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you and throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. So again, throughout your generations, we don't see this sign ending throughout your generations. It doesn't say until, it says throughout your generations. Exodus 31:17. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. So we don't see these signs ending. These are signs that are given specifically to Israel. And this is how everybody can know who is actually Israelite, by these signs. These are, basically contracts. They're covenants. So everybody can recognize. If you go to, a heavily populated Jewish city, for instance, places in New York, Erev Shabbat, everything is shut down. Now, I'm not positive about this, but as far as I've been told, and I don't know, so don't quote me, but where there's a lot of Black Hebrew Israelites, I don't know if everything's shutting down in these communities like the Jews do it. I don't know. I've never been there to observe, but everybody knows the Jewish neighborhood shut down come Shabbat. I don't know if it gets, I don't know if it what happens in the Black Jewish neighborhoods, that claim to be Jews. I don't know. But this is a sign. I'm not sure if all the Blacks that claim to be Israelites are circumcising their children according to the Torah, because you can't open up the Torah and find out how to circumcise a child. Most of people that I know, and I'm just speaking from my experience, are circumcised when we're babies, when we're born. The doctor will give you a shot of, I think it's like a vitamin K, potassium, and then you get circumcised. But it's not done according to the halakha by somebody, a trained rabbi. So I'm not positive exactly who's getting their children circumcised and who's not. If they're, listening to Paul and saying you don't have to get circumcised, if you get circumcised, you got to keep the whole law, depending on the denomination. But what I do know is that it's a sign between Israel and God forever, as it states. Toda Foth, bands, Deuteronomy 6 and 8, New International Version. Tie them as a symbol, tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. As a sign, as frontlets, symbols, signs. Again, we have another sign to show everybody you are an Israelite. So we got circumcision, we got the Sabbath, and we got what this word is going to basically translate into is what we call tefillin or phylacteries. So we see in the Hebrew it's called a sign. In the Strong's 226 and in the Strong's 2903, we see as frontlets. So look this up yourself. What does this mean? NAS Exhaustive Concordance. Definition, bands. NASB translation, frontals, phylacteries. Englishman's Concordance. Toda Foth, 3 occurrences. Exodus 13:16. On your hand and as phylacteries on your forehead in the NAS translation. What is a phylactery? So Ellicott's commentary for English readers, it shall be for a token. See the comment on Exodus 13:9. The frontlets, Toda Foth, of this passage in Deuteronomy 6:8 were called tefillin in Chaldee, both words signifying properly bands or circlets. The injunction of the subject, which are here given, might undoubtedly be explained as metaphorical, but those in Deuteronomy 6:6-9 seem to have been intended and were certainly understood literally. Benson commentary, Exodus 13:16. For frontlets between thine eyes, as conspicuous as anything fixed to thy forehead or between thine eyes, that is, they were constantly to retain such a sense of their deliverance as if they had had it before their eyes. So this is something that was a sign that was put literally on the foreheads of the children of Israel. The word phylacteries is also used in the New Testament, for those who are not aware of that. Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges, frontlets, Hebrew, Totofoth, properly perhaps the Arabic tafa to make a circuit, circlets or headbands, Deuteronomy 6:8, Deuteronomy 11:18. The word takes the place of the memorial in verse 9. Originally, as the comparative study of religions makes probable, the frontlet was some kind of badge worn upon the forehead as a mark of belonging to the national deity by which he might know who were his. Again, a sign, and like an amulet, guaranteeing them his protection, and also reminding those who bore it of their ceremonial duties towards him. Here it is merely said that the redemption of the firstborn is to be for, i.e., to serve the same purpose as a sign or ritual mark, see on verse 9, upon the head and on frontlets, and frontlets on the forehead, and reminding Israel of his duties towards Jehovah. So we see commentaries, we see the Hebrew, we see the verses telling you there are signs to mark Israel. These are literal signs. Circumcision, Sabbath, tefillin. These three signs are visual markers for those that belong to the Most High. It is not your skin color or where you were born. Exodus 31:14, you shall keep the Sabbath. Therefore, it is holy to you. Everyone who profanes it shall surely be put to death. For whoever does any work on it, that person shall be cut off from among his people. We see the same language in Genesis 17:14. And the uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. So we see two times, the two signs so far, we see that that person will be cut off. Representation. Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And these words I command to you today, and these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the way, when you lie down and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and on your gates. So again, representation, you letting everybody know who you belong to. Skin color does not determine your status. These signs do. Deuteronomy 11:26-28. Behold, I set before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today, and the curse, if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside from the way which I command you today to go after gods which you have not known. Skin color is not the factor in the signs of determining for anybody to determine if you were Israelite or not. If you're not keeping Shabbat, if you're not circumcising, if you are not circumcised and you're not circumcising your children, and if you're not wearing tefillin, you're not an Israelite. You're cut off. So even if you are a true bloodline descendant and you're not doing these things, you're cut off from your people. So if you out here screaming at people that they fake Jews and you yourself are not subscribing to the Torah, then what does that make you? So this is what we're dealing with. So that was just real quick. This is part one, something to digest, chew on a little bit, think about it. Skin color is not brought up concerning these signs. It's simply obedience to the creator so everybody will know who belongs to him. And with that, that's part one, and I'll talk to you later. Shalom.